He shouldn't have been with me. This shouldn't have happened the day before my wedding. But, worst of all, I don't remember what happened last night. All my life I've been told to make the right choices. I should marry the man my parents wanted. He was reliable, perfect, respectable. But what if my heart was lying to me? One night of lust, one mistake, or a fork in the road that fate offered me. The man lying next to me was not my fiancé. Was it a mistake, or was I unwittingly walking to an inevitable end? That morning, I didn't just wake up. I faced the biggest truth of my life. Now tell me, if it were you, would you go to your wedding? Now, let's go back and see how it all started. I'm Emma. I'm 27 years old. My long, silky, straight blonde hair falls over my shoulders. My silky white skin, my tight athletic body, my almond-shaped light blue eyes often mislead people. Because on the outside, I always look calm, controlled, and happy. But on the inside, am I really happy? People find me extremely sexy, elegant, and attractive. My mom always told me to be like a princess. So since I was little, they taught me to be perfect. I had to speak beautifully, I had to behave in moderation, I had to never make the wrong choices. And most importantly, I had to marry the right man. Liam was the perfect man. Handsome, successful, kind, exactly what my parents wanted. We'd known each other since we were little. It was inevitable that I would marry her. Everyone said he was the perfect match for me, and I always believed it. But what I didn't know was how empty something that seems perfect can sometimes be. Liam loved me, but did he really know me? Our relationship was more like a partnership. He was always good to me, but he never really made me feel like I belonged. There was always something missing. He loved me, but he never wanted me. So days before our wedding, there was a strange emptiness inside me. The night before the wedding, there was a big celebration. Families, guests, everything was as it should be. But I didn't know that night I would meet someone who would change everything. Noah, Liam's brother, the complete opposite of him. Rebellious, reckless, outcast, dangerous. But most importantly, the way he looked at me made me feel something Liam never did. That night, the whole balance would shift. But I didn't know that yet. The big celebration before the wedding, everything seemed perfect. A stage in the middle of the hall shining with golden lights, champagne glasses on the tables, and smiling people, but I didn't feel like I belonged there. Liam was the perfect groom. He was smiling gently at everyone, shaking hands, making speeches, but when he turned to me, there was an emptiness in his eyes, like he was seeing a stranger, as if I was more of a title than a woman to him. A voice inside me screamed that something was wrong. And then I saw Noah. He was in the crowd, but he looked like he wasn't one of them. His suit was unbuttoned, no tie. He was standing casually with a drink in his hand as if he didn't care about this wedding. But his eyes were watching me directly. It was like he realized that I wanted to escape. And in that moment, he offered me that escape route. I can see you're bored here. The moment I heard his voice, goosebumps ran down my spine. Noah was standing right next to me, his eyes locked on mine, analyzing me. Liam had never looked at me like that. I should have averted my eyes, but I didn't. "Do you know what you want, Emma?" he whispered. I couldn't answer because I didn't know. Everything felt like a blur that night. But when I was with Noah for the first time, I felt like I was really noticed, and I felt extremely sexy around this man. The champagne was flowing like water. As I kept talking to Noah, I forgot where Liam was. The sounds around us faded. His eyes were on me. "If you could go anywhere right now, where would you go?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "I don't know." Noah tilted his head slightly, a wry smile on his lips. "I think you know." And then my hand touched his. I shuddered inside. I shouldn't have done that, but I didn't pull back. Between the drinks, the night, the pressure, Noah's hands were the only thing playing tricks on me. Later that night, I left Liam's side. He hadn't realized where I was anyway. Noah took me to a private terrace of the hotel. The air was cool, but I was burning hot inside. My eyes were locked on his. "We shouldn't do this," I said softly. Noah leaned in slightly. Then go! But I didn't, because I wanted to be there. And in that moment, control completely slipped away from me. I moved closer to Noah, and he came closer to me, and I remember grabbing me by the hair and pulling me to him, and I remember the lust and the pleasure that I felt inside me, tightly wrapped around my whole body. The details are blurry, but the pleasure is impossible to forget. And what happened next? I don't remember anything. I opened my eyes. The throbbing in my head was unbearable. I seemed lost in the white sheets, lying naked on the bed. The deep breathing coming from beside me, it froze my whole body. He shouldn't be next to me. But when I turned my eyes, I saw Noah lying on the bed. My heart started to race. This was something that shouldn't have happened, but it had happened. And now there was no going back. This should have been a dream, but it wasn't. The body next to me, his presence, I collided with the harshest face of reality. Noah, still asleep. His chest was rising and falling slowly, his hair slightly disheveled, but the relaxed, unconcerned look on his face, it destroyed me. As I shivered and wrapped myself in the sheets, he took a deep breath and opened his eyes as if nothing had happened. And then she smiled at me. "Good morning, bride." Something inside me snapped. What had happened? How had I done this? I sat up quickly in bed, my arms wrapped around my naked body. "This is a mistake," I said, my voice shaking. The smile on Noah's face grew. He tilted his head slightly to the side, studying me carefully. "Is it?" His eyes were trying to read my mind, but even I didn't know what I was thinking. What had happened last night? I tried to remember, but my brain offered nothing but blurred memories. My hands touching me on the terrace, my breath, the whispered words. There was the feeling of great pleasure that filled me, the pleasure when his lips touched mine, but then what? My heart was beating like crazy. "Didn't I ask you to?" "Noah, last night we—" "Yes, Emma," he interrupted. "We were there last night." There was no sarcasm in her voice, no guilt, only certainty. This was never meant to be known. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I had a wedding. I got out of bed with trembling hands, trying to find my dress scattered on the floor. Noah was lying in the bed, watching me. "What are you doing?" "I have to go," Noah sighed. "It's a shame, because last night was the first time you felt truly free." He hit me in my weakest spot, but I didn't look back at him. I had to run. I had to get back to my wedding, because if I stayed here one more second, I would think about what I really wanted. And that thought was scarier than Liam. When I walked out of the hotel room, a storm was raging inside me. My knees were shaking as I walked down the hallway. I was afraid to see myself in the mirror, because I didn't want to look in the mirror and remember who I was. "I'm Emma. I am a bride. I'm Liam's fiancé. But who did I belong to last night? When the elevator doors opened, I tried to bury it in my throat. No one should have noticed. I made a mistake, but I couldn't live with it. As I walked back to Liam's room, my heart was racing. I opened the door. Liam wasn't in bed. He was sitting up, reading something on his phone. When his eyes met mine, he smiled slightly. He didn't know anything. "Are you okay?" he asked, studying my eyes. I wanted to take a hot shower, to erase this night from my body, to silence my brain, but I knew nothing could be erased. "Yes," I said with difficulty, but the way Liam looked at me for a long time told me that he felt something too. Even when I took off my dress from the night of the celebration and got under the shower, I could feel Noah's touch. And under the water, I remembered things even more clearly, the hands that roamed my body at night, the touches, the kisses, and the pleasure he gave me over and over again. I was trying to suppress what happened that night, but what I was really afraid of was that I wanted to go back to those moments. I craved those sensual touches. When I went down to the breakfast room, everyone was busy preparing for the wedding. Tables were being decorated, flowers were being distributed, guests were laughing and talking about something. I was smiling like a robot and greeting people, but when I saw him, everything stopped. Noah. He was sitting in an armchair at the other end of the hall, drinking his coffee. His eyes were locked on me, But this time his gaze was different. The attraction I felt last night when he looked at me, now it had turned into a threat. He was giving me a message. This wasn't just one night. He wouldn't forget it. And something told me that he wouldn't be satisfied with just watching me. He wasn't just watching. The game had already started. Noah slowly rose from his seat. He approached me, peering through the crowd like a hunter. I didn't look away, but I should have. "You're not supposed to look at your fiancé like that." His voice made me feel like he was peeling off all my clothes one by one. I remembered last night, his hands on my skin, the words he whispered in my ear. It may have been a mistake, but I couldn't pretend it didn't exist. Noah leaned over the crowd and whispered in a low voice, "You can call last night a mistake, Emma, but we both know you didn't stop for a second." My heart raced and I averted my eyes from him, but he had nailed me with a few words. "You think this is over for you?" A cold sweat ran down my back. When Liam came to me, the wave of panic inside me grew even bigger. He looked at my face carefully. Was he suspicious? His eyes shifted to Noah, and that's when an alarm went off inside me. Noah's look was too relaxed. "Is something wrong?" Liam asked. My tongue stuck to my palate. "No, there's nothing." But there was everything. Noah's eyes said it all. He didn't just want to keep this secret. He was playing, and I was afraid to be part of his game. The wedding was hours away. My hair was done. My makeup was flawless. I was in the dressing room in a white wedding dress looking in the mirror. But the woman I saw in the mirror was a stranger. The door opened slowly. I turned around and gasped. Noah had locked the door from the inside. I straightened my back. "What are you doing here?" He walked towards me with heavy steps. There was a challenge in his eyes. "Do you really think you can be Liam's wife?" He was watching me tremble. And he liked it. He raised his hand, put his fingers under my chin. He forced me to look at him. "Do you think you can forget me?" That's when I realized this wasn't just about one mistake. Noah wasn't going to leave me. This wedding shouldn't have happened, but I didn't have time to run anymore. The veil was on my head. I had my wedding dress on. And inside, Liam was waiting for me, oblivious to everything. But behind me, Noah had closed the door and trapped me inside. He put his hands against the wall. He trapped me where I couldn't escape. "If you walk out of here, you're fooling yourself, Emma." My breath hitched. "You don't belong to Liam. You belong to me." Hearing those words confirmed all my fears. Noah wasn't going to end this, but he had saved the biggest blow for last. He pulled his cell phone out of his inside pocket. "Do you want to see this?" And then he pressed the screen. And what I saw made my stomach cramp. A video from last night. An hours-long video of me and the prisoner in a night of lust. I cut the ice. "If you take that stand, Emma Bo, this video will be your wedding present." He was watching me. It wasn't an option. It was a trap. And now I only had one way out. The wave of panic inside me gave way to another emotion. Anger. Noah shouldn't be the only one playing games. I reached out my hand, snatched the phone away. Noah's brow furrowed. He hadn't expected this, but neither did I. I slammed the phone down with all my might. The screen cracked, shattered. Noah's eyes narrowed, but I didn't back down. "This is my life, Noah. It's not your toy." And then something happened. He pulled back, and I started running. When the doors of the church opened, all eyes turned to me. Liam was smiling. He didn't know what was happening, but I was a different woman now. And in that moment, I looked around the wedding hall and I thought one thing. I can't do this. Did I love Liam? Maybe I did. But did I belong to him? No. And everything that Noah did to me, he showed me something. This life was mine. The priest's voice echoed in my ears. "Emma, do you take Liam to be your lawfully wedded husband?" The entire auditorium held its breath. I felt Noah's gaze on my back, my hands shaking. This was my life. This was my choice. And finally, for the first time, I really made my own decision. I said no. The room fell silent for a moment. Liam's face took on a look of confusion I never wanted to see. I couldn't look at him, but I looked at the door, and I walked away. There were voices behind me. Someone called my name, but I didn't look back at any of them. I'm walking for myself this time. Not for Noah, not for Liam, just for me. And what would you do? Would you stand on that podium and try to forget everything? Or would you take that step that would change your whole life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button if you liked this story. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories like this. See you in the next story.